Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Bart Jaworski. Thank you, Andrew, for the introduction. I'm a geologist and ex-mining analyst. Actually, 25 years experience in the industry. Started the company in 2015, co-founded it, and the idea really was to find the next big zinc deposit within Ireland. And the good news is that we have made a discovery. It is the most significant thing that's happened in Ireland within the last 10 years. And the interesting tidbit for you is how long do you think it would take to go from concept to discovery? Well, it took us 7 years, 100 drill holes, and about 20 million Canadian dollars to get to discovery. So that's why M&A really happens within the industry. So it is something we actually have achieved. We have one foot in the door in terms of achieving our vision here. We are Glencore owned. Glencore owns 17.1% of the company. They put in over $2.6 million into the company. They also have a director on our board, and that's Gaitlin Smagers. They've had a representation on our board for over 4 years now. And the other big news is that Michael Gentile has joined the board as well. He's our number 2 shareholder. He's also put in about $2.5 million into the company personally. For those of you that don't know Michael Gentile, he's an up-and-coming mining investor, big mining investor in Canadian circles. He's an ex-portfolio manager, and 2 weeks ago he's actually decided to join the board, which is fantastic. We also have Dan McInnes, who's a longtime mining executive and geologist with Mag Silver previously. Myself, again, geologist, mining analyst. Brendan Cahill, who is a lawyer and longtime mining executive, and Alessandro Bertelli, who's a chartered accountant and longtime mining exec, ingratiated with the Lundin Group of companies. And Janine is our CFO in Vancouver. David Furlong and I are the co-founders of the company. So we're the day-to-day of the company. Mark Holdstock is a senior geologist that has actually found deposits within Ireland, some of the biggest deposits in Ireland. So as I mentioned, Glencore owns 17%. Michael Gentile owns almost 17%, and we have a number of others on the share register. About 200 million shares outstanding. Market cap 40 million Canadian, and about $3 million in the till. Share price has been, knock on wood, very good. Long may it continue. We're up about 100% on the year. A few months back, I could have said we were up 150% on the year. The news release that really did it for us was number 1 here. And that's where we really started to get traction on our new discovery. We stepped out 160 meters, got 5 holes. 4 of them were really, really strong. And the market really started to pay attention to us. And the share price rose, and that allowed us to raise $3 million at the back end of last year. And that really set us up for a great year of exploration. We've had some transformative exploration this year. So I'm just going to run through the investment summary very quickly here. Break these down one by one and run through these. So zinc really has had a really good outlook, increasingly positive outlook over the last few months, actually the last year, on the back of supply constraints. But really, zinc equals galvanizing. 60% of demand is going to coat steel to protect it from rusting, which is a read-through to infrastructure and white goods, which itself is a read-through to US, China, India, in terms of infrastructure and consumer spending. As I said, the outlook has greatly improved over the last 12 months on the back of supply constraints. About 15 to 20 mines have actually been temporarily or permanently shut down over the last year. And this is pretty much a third year of year-over-year declines in mining output for zinc. That's all in the backdrop of steady demand growth, 1% to 2% per year. So let's look at the snapshot of where we are with inventories and prices. So inventories are actually quite a bit down since the 2012 levels. And prices, albeit quite volatile, they are up generally, certainly since 2012 and certainly over the last year. But that's a snapshot of right now. What about the outlook? So the best tangible I can give you is treatment charges, which is really the best tangible leading indicator. And basically, the lower the TCs, the treatment charge, the more positive the outlook for zinc, because it means the smelters are willing to drop their rates in order to attract scarcer and scarcer concentrate from the mines. So let's have a look at what's been happening here. In 2023, the brokers were using about $274 per ton. This year, they were using 180, so a more bullish number. The benchmark deal of the year came in at 164, And now the spot TCs, especially in Asia, are 0 to negative, which as far as I can understand, from what I understand, is unprecedented. So we're in a very unique part of the cycle right now, and that's led through to what started off as a surplus projection for the year in terms of the refined metals, now deep into the deficit territory. So things are looking good. Now switching gears to the green side of things, batteries, wind and solar. Batteries, which is my favorite topic, because I think it's the best alternative to lithium in the grid power storage space. There's 18 companies working worldwide right now on zinc, airflow batteries, etc. About a third of these are commercial. Most of them are geared towards grid power storage. And the Chinese are getting in on the action as well. They've just announced a breakthrough in their technology. So the Chinese are getting in on it, probably worth paying attention to, as they are already leaders in nuclear, wind, solar, EVs, etc. On the wind side, just to make the point that the world is going offshore, and you need 10 times the amount of zinc to galvanize those offshore wind turbines than you need the onshore wind turbines. So here's a projection of a report written in 2023, global offshore wind build, and you can see CAGRs here of 30% over the next few years. So it's quite a rapidly increasing space. Solar. So solar, nothing fancy, but the frames to hold up the solar panels are galvanized. And so zinc plays a role in that industry in that way. And interestingly, if you look at the uptake and the build of solar around the world, there's been a big inflection point in 2023. Big increase. And in 2024, we're set to actually build on 2023 and beat last year's number. So that's the macro out of the way. Let's talk about Ireland. Ireland basically has 60 years of modern mining history, 6 projects that ended up being discoveries that ended up being built mines are there. So the prerequisites to get to cash flow are there. It's a proven jurisdiction, and I'll talk more about that in a second. Hopefully, I've demonstrated we have an experienced team, we have strong shareholders, and it's all about the Ballywire discovery for us, which is the bulk of this talk. We also, I won't have time to talk about it here, but we have a second target that we're drilling, which is a lookalike to Glencore's Palace Green deposit, which is basically right next door to us. I'll show you that in a second. And we do have 2 deposits already in the back pocket, if you will. We're not focusing on them, but they are there. They're 5 million ton deposit, roughly 9 to 11% zinc and lead. The global world average right now for zinc deposits is about 6% zinc and lead. So these are relatively okay grade, 9 and 11%, not too bad. And they're within Ireland as well. And with the cash that we have ample room for a lot of news flow from now to Christmas and beyond into 2025. So that's the investment summary flyby. Now let's get into the discovery itself. It's called Ballywire. It's in southwestern Ireland in the circle. We're in the Irish ore field, which is that yellow circle. And we're within that part of the Irish ore field that has the highest concentration of zinc deposits found to date. Ireland is considered to be number 1 in the world for zinc deposits found per square kilometer. And what I like to say about Ireland is that it is the land of giants for zinc deposits. Case in point, the Tara deposit, one of the largest zinc deposits in the world, an absolute beast, has been mining for 50 years, 140 million tonner at 12% zinc and lead. Really, really big mine. Another example is Galmoy, which is a 10 million ton deposit, much smaller in tonnage, but really punchy in grades, 15% zinc lead. Lachine, a big money maker, 20 million tonner at 14% zinc and lead, an ounce of silver to boot. And Silvermine's another example, 20 million tons of 9% with 23 grams. Again, very, very nice mine in its day. The one exception to all those is Glencore's Palace Green deposit, which is not yet developed. It's still greenfields. It is big, 45 million tons. The grade, 8.4%, is solid, not as high as Lachine Galmoy. And this is where I think Group 11 comes in, because if we make a discovery that can stand up on its own 2 legs there, we can have a lot of synergies in this camp, sweeten up the region. So I think this is really where we come to the table. As an aside, just with the sort of groundwork behind us here, as an aside, Ireland is poised to have the greenest zinc in the world, just because we have the clean metallurgy. Ireland is known for its clean metallurgy, as opposed to, say, the Spanish deposits, the zinc deposits there. We're infrastructure rich as opposed to, say, northern Canada. We have proximity to European smelters, and we have a lot of wind power coming on. 30% wind right now, and going to 100% by 2030 is the government's plan. So basically low carbon footprint for zinc produced out of Ireland. We also have a 60-year history, as I mentioned. This is why the majors are here. You have Glencore, Boliden, Teck, South 32, all in the country. And we rank very well in the Fraser Institute as well, especially in terms of policy perception index. So what does it all boil down to? Basically, reduce risk for the Group 11 shareholder relative to maybe some other jurisdictions, which could be in geopolitically tough situations or metallurgically challenged or oftentimes infrastructure poor. So with that out of the way, let's get into the discovery itself, which is in the Limerick area in that yellow box. I'm just going to zoom in on that yellow box. You get this picture. First thing to point out is that Glencore is everything you see in blue. Everything you see in yellow is South 32, so we have nice neighbors. Our central ground is Stone Park, the Stone Park joint venture, which we have with John Teeling's company, Arkle Resources. The jewel of this project is the Stone Park deposit, which is butting up against Glencore's Palace Green deposit. So very, very strategically located. It's part of the same system. And I mentioned Carrickittle, I won't be able to talk about it, but this is where Carrickittle West is. It's our prospect that we think is the other half of the system. The geology is identical on the south side of that circular volcanic complex in purple there. It's just that the south side has not been drilled yet and the north side has. The north side has, in fact, a 5 million ton deposit right beside a 45 million ton deposit. The south side is not yet explored. So it's a very interesting project. We are currently working on that. We're currently drilling on that prospect. But the actual discovery is on our 100% owned ground. And that's basically where two mineralizing trends coincide or cross each other. The Palace Green corridor and the Rathdowney trend, which hosts Lachine and Galmoy. Where those two cross is basically where that yellow box is. And that's the Ballywire discovery. So I'm going to just jump into that yellow box and show you, this is as it was in 1997. So I want to show you there's been no drilling here. The green is the prospective horizon. Those open circles are a few scant holes that were drilled too shallow to actually intersect the target horizon, so they're meaningless. But there was one hole here that was actually drilled in 97 and got a little bit of fire in terms of actual mineralization. 2.5 meters of 6%. They didn't analyze for silver. They would have found out that there's a lot of silver here. And they unfortunately went in the wrong direction, lost it, drilled again, got some copper silver hits, over centimeters, but not meters. And then they had one more try, they drilled again, got some very encouraging zinc numbers, but it wasn't strong enough to offset the great financial crisis. And unfortunately, they got wiped out. This area became open ground, and we came on in 2016, 8 years later, staked this ground, took 3 years to do our research, and drilled our first hole here. Got very close to a discovery hole, but it was still about 2 meters of 6% with 20 grams. It was very encouraging, but nowhere near a discovery hole. 2 more years pass. We decide, okay, let's go up here where it's shallower, and this is our first snippet of good-looking, robust mineralization. This was 3 meters of 12% with zinc and lead with 48 grams silver, with a 0.5 meter slug of massive sulfide in there, just like that hole from 1997, which also had a 0.5 meter of 20% zinc and lead in massive sulfide. So we thought, this is interesting. Maybe they're connected. They're a kilometer apart. Let's drill all around and see where we get to. So we basically drilled here, got a little bit of mineral, got a little bit more mineral, a little bit more mineral, and then bang, on our last hole came our discovery hole. And this is where we got a nice solid intercept of 60 meters, 10 meters of 10% zinc and lead with 100 grams silver, for rough numbers. A very, very solid hole. And within that was 2 meters of 41% massive sulfide and 385 grams, nearly 400 grams silver here. Way above the typical zinc mine in Ireland, which is usually about 30 grams per ton. So that was fantastic. We kept on drilling. And that, by the way, was our 100th hole, roughly, since inception of the company. So it took a long time to get here. We drilled all around. Every single hole hits massive sulfide. The best hole was a 60 meter step out, which got another 10 meters of roughly 9% with 50 grams. And included in that was another 2 meters, another 2.5 meters of 30% with 160 grams. We step out again 80 meters and got one of the best holes ever, 18 meters of 10% with not 100 grams, but now 250 grams and a little bit of copper showing up. And then this was this news release that I mentioned at the very beginning in November, where we stepped out 160 meters, 5 holes, all mineralized. 4 of the 5 were really well mineralized. So I'll just zoom in on that to show you what happened. So here we're talking about 710 meters of strike. And just going from left to right, not to get bogged down in the numbers, but just to give you a sense, here we got 10 meters of 8% with 40 grams. Here we got 3 meters of 8% with good silver. Here we got 5 meters of 12 with good silver, and here we got 11 meters of 9 with really good silver, over 80 grams per ton. So fantastic results. And the other nice thing about this is it's a well-behaved system. So let's look at it in long section. What I mean by well-behaved, it's not folded and faulted all over the place and really hard to follow. It's all occurring at the base of the Walsroshen limestone, which is textbook Irish type zinc deposits. It's very easy to follow so far, knock on wood again, long may it continue. But it's very, very, very nice and consistent, and all at the base of the Walsroshen limestone. Again, in terms of future mineability, that's also obviously very helpful. So there's a gap in the drilling, which we will come back to, but really the focus has been pushing eastward because that's where the geology is intensifying and the mineralization is intensifying. So that's why we're going in that direction. So again, that's the 710 meters. And if we go back to plan view, and that's where that 710 meters is, we ran some gravity, got some anomalies to the left and to the right, which were never drilled. We thought, okay, that's very interesting. We projected the massive sulfides, great. And that really gave us the wherewithal to step out in a really big way. We stepped out 930 meters, 530 meters. And they could have been duds, but they all paid off. They all hit mineral. The furthest hole away, 930 meters, got 5 meters of 5% with 12 grams. Definitely not too bad. And this hole here, interestingly, got a lot of silver, 1,400 grams per ton and up to 6% copper, which we thought, okay, that must be the feeder zone. And there must be zinc to the north of it. And in fact, the next few slides I'll show you, we got massive sulfide to the north of here. But what that gave us is 2.6 kilometers where we're getting intercepts of strong, robust mineralization, 2.6 kilometers. So just to catch you up then, from June, we basically drilled 4 more holes, and the headliner of that news release was a 180 meter step out. This time we got the best intercept ever. To date, 30 meters of 10% with 80 grams per ton silver with a bit of copper showing up here. Then in August, we stepped 50 meters to the north of that hole and got another solid result, another 25 meter zone of mineralization with 6 meters of 11% and 3 meters of 11% with up to 400 grams, nearly 400 grams silver. And September rolled around, we stepped out 100 meters and 360 meters. And again, we were blessed to have really good drill results. The northern hole here got 100 meters of mineral with all sorts of massive sulfide within it. And the 100 meter step out got 7 meters of 9%. So again, fantastic results. Let's have a look at the cross section. This is a nice case study because basically the first hole that we drilled got some mineral but not much. We stepped out another roughly 100 meters. We got into this copper zone with a 6% copper here, 1,400 grams per ton silver. We knew that was a feeder. We step out another, call it 50 meters, and we started to get good mineralization. And we stepped out another 50 meters, and we got a whole stack of massive sulfides in through here. This is a 100 meter high zone of mineralization, so very impressive. And by the way, we have these 2 holes pending, so stay tuned for those. Okay, and then just to catch you up, October comes around, and this was our latest press release where we stepped out again, and we got 36 meters of 6% with 26 grams. So again, 6% is the global mine average for zinc deposit. We've got 36 meters of that. Within that was 12 meters of roughly 11.5% zinc and lead with 50 grams per ton silver. So really, really good. And at this stage, what the interesting element of this press release is that we're starting to define a nice flat-lying massive sulfide zone, zinc rich. We certainly were seeing it in the early discovery over here, but we're seeing a lot more of it here. And so what we're hoping is that perhaps things are blossoming, maybe getting better, and also things are getting shallower. This is a fairly shallow system. We're only at 350 meters down here. By the time we're hitting these holes, we're down to 200 meters. So things are getting shallower as we progress in that direction. So you might say that's great, but what's the bigger picture here? 2.6 kilometers is fine, but let's spread our wings here and see what we have overall. So if we zoom out and take a look at our airborne regional gravity data, you can see that we have 4 anomalies, A, B, C, and D, all along the Walsroshen limestone here, which I've highlighted. And what you can see is that the holes the drilling we've done to date is basically just on anomaly C only. And things are getting warmer as we're moving towards the northeast here, which sort of coincides with that C anomaly. We'll see whether that pans out or not, but that seems to be telling us good things. B anomaly, we actually announced our initial hole into the B anomaly. We got a little bit of mineral, which we think we're very close on, just like that cross section I showed you. You know, we should be getting closer to it. Hopefully to the north or to the south, we'll see. And anomaly A is completely untouched, and anomaly D is also completely untouched. But there's a tantalizing hole here that was drilled in 1999, which has 14 meters of 1% in it, and up to, you know, a meter of 4% in it. Fantastic. So that's very tantalizing. Perhaps the system continues. And just for scale, this is the footprint of the Lachine deposit, which is located 50 kilometers uptrend, but at the same scale here. So that 6 by 2 kilometer box, if you will, the search area, prospective area, can very much house, hopefully, another Lachine in here. So we have the room, at least, to make that leap. So again, it's a very interesting prospect. We do have 6 kilometers, 2.6 kilometers drilled so far, but really, if we spread our wings, we have a 6 kilometer trend. And that is it, which I think I didn't hear the bell yet, so.
Button. Well done. Thank
Fantastic. I will just mention, because I have a few minutes, or a minute, we also have germanium in the system. So germanium, for those that know, is worth between 2 and 3 times that of silver. It's a high-tech AI metal. It's used for AI chips and military. There's a bit of a tit-for-tat spat between China and the US in terms of who gets to use these AI chips. And so 80% of the world's germanium comes from China. And China has basically said, look, if you're not going to sell us your AI chips, we're not going to sell you the ingredients to make those chips. So the price, that was announced last year. There was a restriction on exports by China of germanium. And it took about a year for above ground inventories, I think, to dwindle down, and all of a sudden the price really took off and it doubled. So there's not a lot of germanium in the Earth's crust. It only occurs in coal deposits, which we don't want to be mining, and in zinc deposits, but only certain zinc deposits. And we tend to have, in our Ballywire discovery, we are having basically numbers that, if this was a silver credit, that would be a very, very nice silver credit. But these are actually worth 2 to 3 times that of silver, you know, up to 70 grams per ton. Some low numbers, obviously, some in the teens, but certainly there's germanium in the system here too. So that's a potential additional sweetener to the story as well. So I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Bart. It's great as an exploration geologist to hear a successful story and perseverance really paying off there. So
Thanks,
congratulations.